You are here to learn about building highly available data infrastructure beyond resiliency and learn from Boris. Please come in and be seated. But without further ado, for everyone who is here on time, Boris Bialek.
Thank you so much. This is totally awkward, right? This is like, I don't know, working in these quiet discos, everybody has different music. First, obviously the most important part first, I need to advertise our new published book. Yes, we're doing one of those like Letterman. Normally should have done this sitting down with coffee mug and talk about my life and then accidentally pull out the book. This is, somebody laughs, I can hear that. That is so positive. That is so positive because you don't see here anything. But this is the architecture book. We give it out later. We have several hundred copies available. So spread the word. We do some, I think, here or the next stage, later book signing. And if you just want to get a picture with me for your Insta account, TikTok interviews, stuff like that, we can do that as well. I'm already 53 seconds late, so I better start now. Yeah, guys, come on in, put the headsets out. You didn't have to bring the luggage, but it's okay. So high availability, a little bit about me. I'm doing databases over 40 years. What happens after 40 years databases? No hair. So don't do that. But I would like to give you an idea what I think about high availability. And not everything is politically correct, but the slides are approved by our legal. So it's very important to start with an idea about when we talk about high availability overall. When I started out dating myself in the 80s, there was a backup. And some of you may remember the days that there was SunGuard service. You took the backup tapes, put them in these metal boxes, and somebody moved them off campus, which wasn't considered to be safe. Then afterwards, I was working on something which was called Wolfpack clusters, and that was Microsoft Cluster Server afterwards. And there was this really cool book, In the Search of Clusters, which I checked. You get by now used copies for $2 online. It's really good and it's valid today, still. The book is 30 years old. And we started failover. This was now the time, think about the early days of ERP solutions. And people said, oh, in the case of a failover, we have 1 minute downtime. Amazing! And it was amazing at that time. And the more you move up to the line, there came 2000. Everybody remembers that? Dogfood.com. Yes. Suddenly people talked about availability architectures, and then came the interesting thing, not 9/11, but who remembers Eastern Shoreboard electrical failure, 2003? Anybody? Yep. That got really funny because suddenly everything up to Chicago was down. And then people start talking about real disaster recoverability, and by now we're talking about global business continuity. I try to put it up into perspective here because people forget this part. And now, yes, all the links are legit. This is for 50 years the technology what people are using still today. By the way, do I yell too much? Because this is this feeling I talk into nowhere. It's good, somebody's laughing. Okay, fair enough. So what happens is you have a database. A database has so-called logs. Yeah, we know about those. And then you can ship these ones out and you have a redo apply stream to a secondary site. What do you think, how old is this picture? Over 30 years. And it's still up to date as one of the top ones when you check with OpenAI for some pictures. Now, there's a nicer one. This picture is from myself from 2005. That's the IBM DB2 distributed database. It looks more fancy. It's the same. And there's some nicer pictures as well. Data center AB and Azure traffic, SQL, Azure. All of this stuff is the same. Everything what these databases are doing is only one thing. They take a transaction, write it to the log, take the log, and move it forward. Now the amazing part where people get stuck on is the following. And now comes the ugly part. There are ways how people try to make it sound cool and differentiating not between high availability, disaster recovery, and something called cache fusion. inside an Oracle RAC cluster. What is the most important part? As soon as you have those called high availability RDBMS systems, they are log-based. If you have an interruption, you need to apply the log on whatever is surviving, even inside the single box if you have an Exadata system. So people forgot that when there were certain incidents at a very large bank, and you can look this one up, 2007 or so, and the problem was the block remastering to get the blocks online where the hot pages were took 14 hours. Congratulations. So, and I love this slide, and the code is legit. If you want to get the whole story, every quarter Oracle is updating their maximum availability architecture. Every quarter. This is latest. And when we take a look, I skip bronze, I skip silver, that's boring, right? But when we sing gold, mission critical sounds good. Everybody with me? Because this is a dinosaur. And what do we know about dinosaurs? They got hit by a meteor, right? So, anybody has any ideas? You can use one and two hands. How many machines do you need to be gold? 5. That's Microsoft's picture, that's not mine. And I'm allowed to use this slide because it's public domain, listed on their website externally, link below. You have active zones, active database server 1, active database server 2, copied over with data guard in the first data center, which is log shipping and transaction shipping. Then you have a backup local node. Then you ship it over with Golden Gate to the remote standby and then to local backup. 5 boxes. The funny part is when you take a look there about the plant maintenance and the RPO to read requires applying application checklist, which means whatever you do to the app, you need to manually customize the stuff down. There's no own intelligence on the driver. A standard driver is not very smart. It's this thin. That's a base driver. So when we take a look to this kind of picture and this kind of layout, this is what we're comparing against. And I want to rant about this, and I'm apologizing that I rant about it, but when people come to me saying, oh yeah, our Oracle single Exadata is RPO RTO 0. And I stand there like, right, ever heard about that stuff? Oh no, we don't need that. We are RPO RTO 0 on a single box with one power cable. Congratulations. This is really, really hard. But the interesting part is when we talk about the real system, it's 6 Exadata. What is missing on this slide? The 12 people, you need 24/7 to manage the Golden Gate interface between the two instances, the data guard infrastructure, the block remastering, the cache fusion configurations, because they're so-called init.ora files. Some of you may mention that one, which need to be manually configured. I see some people smile in the back. Can you give me a hands up? Is this still legit, or is this, give me the sum? Yes, you in the back. Yeah, you. Yeah, okay. I get some hands up, and I didn't pay the guys. So when we take a look to this one, keep this in mind. This is what we're dealing with. So when we take a look now and taking a step back, what modern infrastructure means is there are two things what people mix up. High availability is the desirable nines driven by the bank account and the business needs, plus RPO RTO 0 for real. In this case, we have an integrated environment. That means we need to think about, I have all my systems running. I want to have, under any circumstances, 0 downtime in that environment. And this is my production entity. Normally, most systems I'm dealing with are 5-node environments. 5 why? 2 data center A, 2 data center B, and the 5th in an unknown location. But I would like to point out, this is still high availability. Failure is actually happening in those environments, make no mistake. And you have no real-time outages. But then there's still the Eastern Shoreboard moment. And that is a disaster moment. And when people tell me they want to have true DR with RPO RTO 0, I get normally totally confused. Because even if you look back to the oldest systems, a real DR environment, what do you have? You have Brisbane, Chicago. That was a very large mining company I dealt with. What do you think what the problem is? There is a physical cable, trans-Pacific, and that thing has a certain length. And even light had certain runtime. Then they went to satellite, which I found really funny, because that takes longer, because the runtime is long. So when we take a look, it's really hard to understand a real disaster recoverability implementation is not RPO, RTO 0. It cannot be because it is on a larger distance of the environment. When people tell me they get an RPO 0, here's enough, RPO 0 between Singapore and Paris. Can you have that? You have about 1500 milliseconds runtime, and you need to look alive, is alive between these two locations. That's two disaster situations. If Singapore goes down, you want to go to Paris, and you cannot get out of these 1500 milliseconds runtime of the cable around Africa through the Mediterranean to France. So keep this in mind when you design your own systems and when you plan about your environment. The second part is I'm getting always concerned when people tell me we're doing DR testing every week. Their understanding of DR is actually highly available. They do a failover, data center A shuts down or B shuts down, third data center. That is a high available infrastructure, and this is very critical and valid. Don't mix this up with a real DR setup. And for real DR, you need a complete different thinking today, because real DR means transcontinental. You cannot assume anymore, and this is not negative about any cloud providers, anybody, CrowdStrike downtime. You guys all have seen it 3 years ago or so, 2 years ago. That thing took down whole continent. If you tell them, oh, but we are really globally distributed, Seattle, Virginia, and Denver, that doesn't help. You're dead. The answer needs to be Tokyo or London. And then you have the distances. So keep this in mind. I hope so far I don't lose anybody. Now, when we look at MongoDB setup, and this is the thing where people lose it, we have the native driver, and our drivers are this thick. The driver understands the coordination between multiple sites, multiple nodes, and you have a configuration for this one inside the replica set. And normally the minimum layout is 3 nodes, primary, secondary, and then you can have some isolated secondaries on that. We come a little later to it. The key part is this setup highly available or is this DR? It has to be only highly available, because a DR setup is completely outside of my realm, completely protected by their own firewalls, etc., etc., and I need to have different mechanisms to get my data over. So, but this one addresses the availability. I can address disaster recoverability, I come to that one in a second, and I can zero downtime maintenance and repair. This is which gives me my RTO, RPO 0 out of the box. Now, what is the risk factor in this picture? The risk factors in this picture is 3 nodes. 3 nodes, we can do the math, and I come to that one in a second. When I look at the math between the nodes, the availability, even the cloud providers, 3 nodes cannot give you 6 nines. Why? Let's do the basics. Server, network, storage. Everything is 99%. We know that mathematically, statistically, 1 minus those numbers, exponent 3 components, gives us about 97%. Failure probability is 3%, 1 minus number. So when we take a look at this one, very simple, we end up with pictures like this, and now you need to multiply it out. What is this taking not into account at this time when you do your planning? Let's take a step back. The default cluster view. Assume every node has 4 nines environment, multiplied to 5 nines, gives us a 9998 something. Cluster availability is 6 nines. Now, that picture is lying. What is missing here? Is it really server storage? No. What you need to all count in is software impact, global DNSs, power. One of the biggest failures in my life was a huge SAP instance got killed every Friday 12 p.m. You know what happened? There was a control panel connecting to certain racks, and the cleaning woman came in every Thursday, Friday, pulled the power plug, plugged her cleaning device in, cleaned, plugged the thing back in, the service came back up again, but obviously the database need to run recovery. Sounds very funny. That's a legit story. I'm not saying who it was. You have to give me beer for that. Payoff or nothing. But then there are secondary components as well impacted, and then there's human errors on top as well. So when we take into all of those items, we end up with certain availability situations. So this is why, for me, availability is normally a 5-node environment. We start out normally with a primary in the zone A, one secondary. Why do we need 2 nodes in the first zone? Because we want to be able to take a node offline without failing over out of the data center. We're talking now really RPO, RTO 0. I want to be able to do maintenance. With this environment, we had the bank actually moving a complete data center. They were able to take down the complete data center, put the stuff on trucks, drive it to the new data center, reconnect, bring it back online, and we were operational without ever going down 1 second on their payment system. This is why I need that. And then you replicate out, and the replication is a little bit exemplary. It's not always like this, depends on the speeds, but the primary replication is we have majority writes, which means 1 node, 2 nodes, 3 nodes, then we assure node 1, the primary goes to secondary and to at least 1 outside of the data center, and then you can make the case, yeah, but the blue arrows are too slow. How do I resolve that? Write majority all, I collect it to all. That's a business decision. And that's a runtime decision. Imagine the first 4 nodes, this is Paris, this is Lyon, this is Singapore. Can I afford a Singapore round trip confirm? 1500 milliseconds, I have a 3 seconds delay. Probably not. Can I afford to lose that one under certain conditions? Probably. So this is the kind of thinking what I want you instill with this session to give the idea what we talk about in this context. I hope this still makes sense so far. Yeah, I see you guys still sitting there. How bad was the food? Nobody's laughing, this must have been really bad. So now the next picture is, as soon as I want to do some real DR capabilities, I need to be able to bring up the cluster back to full life. Imagine, Europe is down, complete power failure because the EU grid had a hiccup. There was something in Spain just weeks ago. Some of you may have seen that. Took them 3 days. So imagine DC1A, 1B going down, then I have 1 node running in Singapore. That is a read-only solution at this point. It has to be. I don't have the time. I wish I had a little bit more. My usual presentation is about 4 hours on the subject. But there's something called the CAP theorem you want to read up on, and which tells you that you can either be partition true or available, and both at the same time is hard to achieve. So you have some cold nodes on standby to rebuild the instance in Singapore that you get back to 3, so you get back to write majority. This is then a DR approach, the yellow ones. The green is the high availability. I hope this makes so much sense still. I have now some simple examples. The whole examples, if you're interested, are available, 140 slides. I'm not joking. This was done for one of the top tier banks in the world, and they tried to tell me that it's technically not possible to go through all scenarios. I spent 8 hours going through every single option of downtime. I give you some ideas now just to give you some fun. This is a typical large-scale setup. You have 3 data centers in 3 regions. You have a MongoDB cluster with multiple shards, and you have application servers. So it's very straightforward. In this case, I'm globally distributed. I can run my payment infrastructure, West Coast, East Coast, Europe. For example, choose your poison, choose your locations. I have primaries, obviously, in each region because I want European transaction go to Europe, East Coast to East Coast, West Coast to West Coast, Central US, we don't have transactions. Joking. And now let's blow this up. Ba-dunk. Data center 1 is down. Woohoo! What happens? The data center 1 is going down. MongoDB directly realizes what is affected. We got one primary moved. We got several remote alternates into the selection process, which select your environment out. The key part is the app servers are down too, but the 2 other app servers out of data center 2A are still available, crossed over. Therefore, I have 0 downtime. And most important, I have 0 downtime on application. I've only rollback reconnect on 1 shard, not on all 3, on 1 shard. Get that applied, get it back down. So because we have retriable reads, we have all the infrastructure below that, we have an RPO, RTO 0 available environment. So far, you guys are with me, it's really hard. There's not much communication with the headsets on. So, but you can throw stuff if you're disagreeing. Somebody laughed, that means there's something, this is so weird to present like this, you have no idea. And that was harmless. Now, single node, single region goes down, both data centers, budunk. So DC1A, DC2A is down. We have now 2 data centers down. This is a typical scenario, Eastern Shoreboard. Remember, Detroit and or Jersey and Brooklyn Heights is down. Eastern Shoreboard is down. What happens? We have the move of, there's a typo, we need to have a selection still from the first partition, but we still have 3 nodes available, so we still have full availability. I do need to do the selection process on the first shard only. Shard 2 and 3 do not even get affected. This is a part where I normally struggle with people. I mentioned before cache fusion and Exadata. In that scenario, what would happen? The first instances on the first shard, let's call it the data partition, needs to be block remastered. This block remastering can take hours. Now, any experienced Oracle guy will tell you, no. I can block remaster. I run a test on my own system, it's under 5 seconds. And then I ask him, how many million transactions did you inject in your test case? Let's call it payment for whatever, one large bank. I'm not allowed to say which one. Million payments a minute. You need to remaster that. There's no way. That means you need to reapply this, you read back. You need at that point making sure that the read back and the logical sequence numbers on the database are still applied to roll this back. Sync back to the picture I showed you, the maximum availability architecture. All that stuff needs to be reapplied. We are down on the left side. So when you do that, you have seriously downtime. And when people then tell me, but I can do this with RPO, RTO 0, that is correct, minus the block remastering, hashtag fail. So this is where I started when you say, Boris, why do you care about this? This is my own journey to MongoDB, where I started as a customer using MongoDB. Because I had to deal with these kind of environments. If you check out my LinkedIn, my old employees start giggling because some people figured out. But this is exactly where the difference is between a modern high availability architecture and a classical MAA, the Dino, hashtag, the meteor hit it, 30 years old. So I hope I'm not too negative. Am I? No, eh? Now, let's take 2 regions down. Budunk. We're going in read-only mode. At this time, I have a problem. My first node, I have only 1 out of 5 left. I'm still able to read at this time. I'm still able to read on all the partitions. which is way better what happened in the other scenario, because if I try to read, I get dirty reads, very dirty reads. We have no dirty reads in this environment. Every read is in the system and is live. So when we take a look to this one, I can rebuild this, I get primaries, but I'm still in a disaster scenario, so I need to build up additional nodes and bring them up live in the data center to be operational. But this can be done rather fast. I only need to have the nodes up, need to be reapply them, and this is a DR scenario, a real DR scenario. You have downtime now. You need to reapply the data sets to the secondary systems. But that is a scenario where the eastern shoreboard, the western shoreboard is down, and you have to recover everything into Europe. At that point, trust me, if anybody tells you you need to do this differently, and oh, but there's some magic cookies, there are no magic cookies around a real DR environment in the setup. So, that was the basics. They gave me only half an hour on that one. There's still backup. I want to bring this up because cloud backup is one. This is giving you an idea how real backup looks like in a fully distributed environment. The environments you saw there is backup over these mechanisms, including all details. Again, you guys can make pictures, but you can ping me as well, boris.bielek@mongodb.com. I sent you the full presentation. It's pure bliss. Every single case is completely X'd out. And when we take a look at this gives you the important point is, you need to have actually, when you have 3 regions on 6 data centers, how many backups you need? How many do people normally talk about? What's wrong with this picture? Because I need to have the availability scenarios for the recovery options as well. Because backup is still the only option which is really helping against a human being. So, what's next? Check out your current availability architectures. I'm more than happy. I have a really cool team as well in the various regions. If you want to talk to some folks in more detail about this, this is an ugly discussion to have with your bosses. Because the initial answer, we can get RTO 0 for free, is wrong. The mechanisms you need on the data side give you the guarantees, and you want to have the flexibility on your availability architectures to move things around. And why all of this stuff? Because the transition to AI readiness. I'm dealing with clients by now where their end consumers getting nasty if they're lower for 500 milliseconds. When I started out, we started out with 2 seconds and it was totally acceptable. Then it was 1 second, 500 mil, and I have a large retailer in Europe who tells me 100 mil or they switch to another app. They just swipe me out on the phone, suck, gone. And I lose my sale. So keep this in mind. We have as well a website for this one, which is pretty cool. You can contact me as well. And now, in time, on budget, I would like to invite up Mauricio and Joe to join me here, and we talk a little bit about what Ernst & Young, EY now officially, are doing in that space. Thank you so far. And don't forget to come for the book signing. And you don't want to leave now. This is actually quite funny. So, Joe, come close to me. Come on, give me a hug. Come on in.
Thank you, sir.
Mauricio. So I hope you guys everybody can hear you guys. This is very, very nice. Can you try the mic?
Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear us?
Hello.
All right.
Perfect. So why don't you two first tell the people a little bit, I don't know who of you two want to start, about what solution you're utilizing. How did you get to this whole environment?
So, well, first, thank you, Boris, for having us up here. I mean, we're thrilled as EY to talk about our great success with you guys. And what solution are we using? We're using your managed service. So I'll tell you, I'll talk more about what the application and what our needs are, and then Mauricio will go into the exact technical specifications of how we're doing it, and again, the results that we've had are spectacular.
Cool. So we talked about availability. You guys are globally distributed, right, on your Atlas environment, and we're cheating a little bit. We talked before, so it's not the first time I meet these two gentlemen.
Right.
So full disclosure, but maybe talk a little bit about what it means really from the solution perspective. Globally.
Sure. So first, not to confuse things, but our knowledge management system is also called Atlas. So great minds think alike. We had the name first, though. Okay. All right. So our knowledge management system is called Atlas, and it has over 3 million document objects in it. It serves over 140,000 employees globally, has to run 24/7, and has over 1 million hits a month. And that's just with conventional search technologies. And it's absolutely critical that it be up all the time, because that is what our auditors and some associated other employees from other parts of our business have to refer to all the time with everything that they do. So it's absolutely critical that we have high availability and maximum speed. And so within that landscape, though, we're using conventional search technologies, which, you know, we did as much as we could with those, with tuning and boosting and things like that. But then along comes, you know, MongoDB and Gen AI. And so what we decided to do then is, can we do what we call semantic search and summarization, which would be not just helping them find the document, but summarize the document or a collection of documents into an answer. But again, it's also critical. I mean, Mauricio has done a tremendous job with you guys. We have a very narrow scope. We don't have hallucinations that we control it with guardrails, but at the same time, we do want our auditors to still check what the AI is saying. So you've got to take that base 1 million hits a month, and maybe even have to double it, because you're going to be now doing AI questions and then checking the answers before you accept it.
So it's a classic, trust is good, control is better.
Correct.
That was Lenin, by the way. It's very nasty. So Mauricio, maybe you can talk a little bit about the AI side and what you guys are doing in regards of availability in that spot as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Boris, for having us here. What we're doing with availability is we have our Adobe CMS system, and we are bringing all of the documents, we're chunking them, we're vectorizing them, putting them in Mongo, and we're doing traditional RAG, boosted with some techniques we can talk about a little bit later as well. But what we're doing is bringing the results to the auditors, to the people that are using these systems in a summarized way, make sure that it's highly available. We have replica nodes, similar to the picture that you showed not too long ago, with 2 clusters in the US, and then we have some redundancy cluster in India. So we have low latency, we have high availability, we have high throughput. We did about 240,000 questions in less than 3 months. We are rated up to 50 queries per second, so we really trust the system, and we really test it to make sure that it's highly performant.
I loved how you said the word traditional RAG. This sounds like RAG is the last 40 years, well, relatively fine, but I'll let you go on that one, so we can have a lot of things. But so when you think about these solutions, so obviously on something like Atlas, you don't see really the availability that clear, right? What you guys are doing. It's just like you trust the distribution of the systems and your providers.
Well, we hear about it if there is a blip. So, for example, just last week, Microsoft's one of our partners, but anybody else have a problem with Azure Front Door last week? You know, there was a problem in East Coast region, right? So, but we get calls immediately because the people are using it that much.
Hey, where's my service? I need
Exactly.
I need to close the following document, and I need that, and yeah.
So even though magic is happening behind the curtains, they'll let us know if there's a hiccup with you know, Azure or something like that. We have not had any hiccups with Mongo, so thank you for that. But I think it's also critical to talk about how we built the application. So we did 3 things, which I think are leading edge in knowledge management. Is how does the results of the AI and RAG appear to the end users? So we did 3 things. We did a micro front end architecture. We also did context as a service, all to achieve knowledge at the point of need. So the traditional would be like a swivel chair type of approach. You might deep link into the application, but you're moving from one application to another.
You have to switch context.
Switch context and
yeah.
everything. So what we did was we put the MongoDB stuff, it appears in a micro front end, which we can then embed in any of our assurance applications. So we specifically embedded it in Atlas and within our mothership application called Canvas. So what that does is they don't have to swivel chair to get it. And then we also have personalization built in. So they have some context of the right question at the right time, knowledge at the point of need, and then using Mongo and Adobe together, we'll even give them the section of the document they're looking at, because sometimes some of the documents of PCOB or ISA, IFRS regulation could be 100 pages.
I don't want to get into that one. It's my old job again. Why IFRS 9 stage 2 is 60 days with offload of 10%. We don't want to get into that.
And here comes IFRS 18.
Yes.
So
So let's talk BCBS 2. No, we don't do that. Sorry guys, sorry that was a kind of, if any banking people are in the room here and think about Basel 3, Basel 4, we can have an own session on that one. But Mauricio, I find it really cool because how did you guys came up with the idea to this kind of, to build this? You as the AI leader, obviously, it's not like, one of the biggest problems what I hear from people is, how do you come up with actually business-driven ideas into AI? What was the road, how you got there?
Yeah, and this is about servicing the auditors, right? They have their own language. They speak their own lingo. And a lot of times, LLMs and AI is not trained on that lingo. Specifically, there's a lot of terms that we use internal to EY that LLMs don't know about. So what we do is we created an encyclopedia that whenever we get a query, we first expand the query and we bring all that context that Joe talked about, we enrich it, we expand the acronyms, we have it trained so that it understands those better. Then we use also synonyms. So we use a synonym functionality from Mongo to say, when an auditor talks about this, it can also be talking about something else. So we have a large collection of synonyms that we can search across and we can enhance the query with. And then finally, we do hybrid search. I know that you guys, with Voyager, there's a lot of work that is coming up, and with 8.2, there's also new features that are coming out. We started hybrid search before that, so we have our own implementation of hybrid search. We're going to
wrong with that one. Yeah, you have to survive, you've lived, and you run on Mongo, so we're totally happy
exactly.
with you.
So, we use a reciprocal rank fusion, traditional technique for hybrid search.
I find it amazing that somebody apologizes that he didn't implement his solution on something which was just announced on stage. So no offense, Mauricio, this is rather cool, but it's okay.
So anyway, hybrid search gives really good results, and we're actually looking forward to testing out the re-ranking functionality with the partnership, the acquisition of Voyage AI, and we're looking forward to that.
So what are your next steps, Joe, when you think about this solution? So you have now this one piece running. So do you have additional ideas how you want to transition this to the next areas?
Yes, so we want to take the smart disambiguation that we've got now today, but we want to take it to the next level, to a more sophisticated level of questions, right? And how to specifically answer those. So we want to take, EYQ assurance knowledge further. But at the same time, we have what we call the assurance assistant, and the assurance orchestrator, and from those components, we want to bring in other agentic solutions that, the knowledge base is done that they all have to refer to. That's the nice Mongo backend done. But so now we can build those agents around this, and they all have the knowledge for the agents, not just the humans, have the knowledge at the point of need.
You sound a little bit like me when I usually rant saying the data stay, but the agents may change, the digital expertise changes, and you may change LLMs and algorithms and so on, but the data change. So it sounds a little bit like MongoDB marketing talked to you before, which is not the case, I would like to point out. So.
But and to your point, we get audited on the content of our knowledge base historically going back 7 years. All the big four do. Mm-hmm. So to your point, that's got to stay locked, stable, trackable, snapshotable, so that if there is an issue with an audit and a regulator wants to look something up, we've got the data from 2020 or 2021.
So how does this mean for you from the AI perspective? Because when I hear suddenly traceable, auditable, how are you dealing with those kind of subjects on the AI side?
Well, that is a money question.
Exactly.
So we're building everything piecewise, right? So we're making sure that every agent that we have is auditable, is traceable. We have this platform that orchestrates across all the agents. We make sure that that is all thoroughly connected. The agents are thoroughly vetted, so we have governance on top of that layer. But like Joe said, we start with basic pillars, right? So we have to build on making sure that you have the right context, make sure that you have the right data, making sure that you have the right access. And it's only on top of that that you can build these more sexy AI solutions in order to provide that value add.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use the S word in that context, but these more sophisticated maybe sounds cool as well. So
More sizzle.
Mark can talk to me as well.
Yeah. So, any questions out of the audience? I know it's very hard, but if you have any questions, we still have 4 minutes left. No? Then I have one more. So, how many people do you need to build something like that? Are you hiring? It's basically a question. There's a lot of people here.
We're always looking for talent and additional AI folks because, I mean, again, I think this is one of the interesting things in the industry. I think you and I have had a similar time in the career, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, you have Meher though.
Yeah, but every time we come up with a new productivity solution, instead of having less developers, the business wants more. So we've got another opportunity is that, yes, we have a great efficient team that did this, but the business wants more. So whether it was WYSIWYG or case tools or 4GLs, every time something like that has come along, including AI and AI coding, the business has said, great, here's the backlog of things I wanted you guys could never get to at the right price. So yeah, we're definitely looking for additional MongoDB and AI talent.
And what is next for you on the project side? So this one is kind of done. So what do you see and vision as the next level for you?
Yeah, there's still opportunities for improvement. There's always something else that is coming out. There's always something new that we're testing out. I mean, knowledge is one part of the RAG solutions that we're looking at, but we also have, embeddings of documents that are more dynamic. We're playing with MCP servers. We're playing with all of the cool new toys and techniques that are coming out. But again, we're starting with that baseline. We have a bunch of agents that are in the works right now to build that solid foundation. And we're starting with a few of those use cases that will give us a little bit of a head up and a leg up in terms of efficiency and making sure that we stay ahead of the curve in terms of technology and using it.
And videos, for example. So like the demo you showed this morning with the video embeddings, that was very cool. That's something we're definitely going to look at, working between you and Adobe on how to do the best videos, and particularly with this generation, they want short form videos, TikTok-sized videos for the training. They don't want to sit through the 30-minute training video anymore. So how do we deliver training at the point of need? And that is also something that's in the EYQ assurance now, is a very basic video capability, to maybe help the auditor with that particular task, but we need to take that way to the next level.
Maybe for some people interested, we have the industry solution team, basically my team, standing at the MongoDB booth on the right side, and we have some live demos out there. You can check those demos out. All the code available from these environments is available for download in the new Architecture Center, which you may have heard about mentioned. Just go MongoDB Architecture Center, and on the left side you see Solution Library. All of this stuff, what we talk about, the generic concepts behind that one, are available as well. So, guys, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate this one. If anybody has direct questions without headsets, we're obviously here still available. And somebody already smiles at me and looks at it and would like to take over the stage again. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mauricio, gracias.